So you guys were one. I'm hearing a lot of you guys. You guys wanted a theme song shortened, so here we go. This girl reviews movies, games, and books. Sometimes she plays them. So does that? And when she does it with the cat, does that make her crazy? Does that make her crazy? Probably. So it's shorter. There you go. CrazyCatLady Gamer Reviewer or Martha Butler does not own any trailers or pictures. I use them under fair use, educational, for education and entertainment purposes.
Hi everybody, Foxy here, time for Martha's review of Five Nights at Freddy's, Book 3, 1:30 a.m. Here comes Martha! Ah!
Hi everybody, like Foxy said, I'm here. So, I finished reading the Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear Frights, third book 35 a.m. So this one was pretty good. It had there's no happy endings in this one. None of the characters survive. Well, there's usually a death in all three of these. So let's get started with this. Let's just start with the synopsis on the back. Okay. For Delilah, Stanley, and Devin, bringing these who left behind is practical in the way of life. Orphaned from young age and recent divorce, Delilah escapes deeper wakes up call. Okay, the recent divorce, Delilah escapes into her dreams each night and spares needs of to wake up call. Stanley is newest dumped, stuck in a dead-end job for a mystery employee, unable to connect with anyone. And Devin is abandoned by his father, ignored by his mother, cannot understand why love is, friendship is so easy to come for everyone except him. Unfortunately, in the caption of the world of Five Nights at Freddy's is always in deep loneliness for when evil is crept in. So, for the first one, it's about Delilah, who recently got a doll, who's this one right here, but it's basically, if you got in this book, the Five Nights Freddy's Files, and look up this page right here, and you would see that this cover right here is basically this character, and I'll find a better picture of her, Ellen. Right here is the doll that she has, and I'll read the description for that one too. Ella was built to match Charlie's size, a small child when wheeled at the foot. Charlie's bed turned Ella exit from her small closet, holding a cup of tea party. Since Ella spent her years naked behind her closet, she was most intended of the animatronics. With her fraction dress almost cracked as the day Charlotte left Hurricane. So, yep, this is the one that Delilah ends up having that wakes her up all the time and drives her crazy. So she gets to gain Lila, um, and it's meant. I think this doll is meant to drive their owner crazy by waking them up at certain times every single night. And 1:35 a.m. was one of those times. So let's read the last 2 pages. For the new kid, I'm probably going to bring the last 3 pages because the last page is so short. Let me get to the end. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I'm gonna read the last 2 pages of this one too. Where could she go? Delilah began to run again. She ran aimlessly to the river, escaping this way and that, looking for a way to out, looking for escape haunted of the launcher seat. Sometimes something she takes far of Ella as she could get. She did not know how long she ran before she stumbled into the long, like abandoned instruction site. It lied outside where the shoulder of the outside by darkness. But the street lamps went enough light over several bases outlining. She slowed her pace, aimed her flashlight, and studied the weather sign, applying the regression of the light of office complete and pleasant. Shuffling the dirty board covering on the opening of the sign of what seems a 3-story structure, Delilah sighed it into the sight. The answer of her pure light was in here. She was sure of it. Some place here she was going to find a place to escape from Ella forever. But where? Picking her way over the bare borders, spines with nails, and scared waving around, servant of the lumber and drywall, Delilah made her way into the room, and nearly completed. The drywall wasn't just up, and also textured and painted. And there's high up, walls inside, was her answer. It was vented opening uncovered, barely big enough for her slumped into. That's where she stopped running from Ella. Looking around the room, she was booted herself up and to the opening. She spotted overturning. She saw horse, and she tossed it over right in it, and carried it onto the spot below the vent, and it was strong saddle. Stopped listening to sure she was alone. Delilah hoisted herself onto the sawhorse and stood on her tiptoes and was able to hook herself over the front of the vent opening. From there, she did pull up, thankful for all the upper body strength that she was carrying clearly over dinner. Once she was leveled and with the opening vent, she reached with one hand, searching for the kind of hand holding. She didn't find one, but she sweated a hand stuck on the metal enough to give her some so purchase, and she was able to wiggle up her upper body onto the vent opening by going onto the lever at a time. Once she was far into the vent, she just was wiggling her whole body like a snake into a vent. But she didn't feel safe. She stopped wiggling for a moment. Taking stood and turning her flashlight and spotted downward, turned to the vent and instant towards it. Yes, it was it. Aiming her body from of the space, she stood forward a little further and a little further. Her flashlight slipped from her sweaty hand and clicked against the metal vent's walls and dropped of Delilah's reach. She headed to the end of something with a sharp crack. It has been broken because of the space and the darkness. Delilah's shoulder wrenched so tightly into compact metal and closed it, and she knew she finally found it. There this was. Ella couldn't find her. No one could find her here. Trying to move just to be sure, she confirmed that she was stuck. Completely thoughtful stuck. And she breathed slowly, relaxed. She couldn't even move in any direction. Never have to run from Ella again. Well, if you're stuck, you can't run anywhere! So, basically, the last part of the book, she's running away from the doll, and yet she gets herself stuck. That's really smart! Well, let's continue running, trying to get myself stuck in a vent! Yeah. And knowing that Ella's small, she probably can reach her there. So, what are you talking about? Okay, so, yeah. And that's really, it's really silly, basically. So, So the next one's called Room for One More, and this one has to do with Stanley. And I'm guessing if you guys have played Sister Location or watched somebody play it, like I have, you know where Stanley works, or you can guess where Stanley works. So he works an underground floor, and he's has to stay up all night watching underground bunker, and he ends up and he ends up and the person that worked there before died, like a heart attack or something. You probably already, after I'm done talking, probably guess what actually killed the last guard. So he doesn't stay. He ends up falling asleep like every single night he's there. So he's a bad guard. He should get fired. You don't fall asleep on a job. So, and every time he wakes up, he sees a doll, which is basically one of the ballerina dolls from the third one, from the Sister Location it was actually in the fourth. It was in the Sister Location, and you thought it was the spine on the room in the fourth game, and he's the one that he ends up dreaming every single night of seeing the four animatronics, but he never has seen them. But he also wakes up and finds one of the ballerina dolls asking him, "We like you. We want you to take you home with us." Every single night, and he ends up waking with his throat sore and his hands numb. And last night, he's trying to get home because he just figure out what happened. Basically, the reason why he has a sore throat and his hands are numb is because while he's sleeping, he doesn't feel it. But the little ballerina dolls, like in the game, what they do in the game is they block your way from seeing in the room when you're spying the cameras, checking you're in the room, checking to see if any other of the animatronics are coming. They're blocking your vision. Usually it gets up to like 5. Like there's one right here, one right here, one right here, one right here. And so you can still see the room basically, but and still see what you're able to do, but they're blocking most of your vision. So it would make sense, and they're small, so they would be able to fit down your throat. And basically you are going home. They're going home with him because they're inside of him, and they're making since the reason why his hands are numb is because they're inside of him. They're making making him numb, and his throat is sore for having something that big from going down his throat. So, and when he's trying to get away, one's following him, and he ends up dying before he gets out. So, as you would have guessed, maybe the person that worked there before him ends up dying the same exact way, and the company just covered it up because they don't want to have to deal with the problem that their product killed one of their employees. And they're probably going to end up covering the same thing with Stanley. So let's read the last part of it. And this will definitely be the last page, so there's nothing here for me to read it. Voices. Stanley thought were interrupted by a tiny muzzle little girlless voice. They were muzzling because they were coming from inside of him, from his left arm, like, "We like being inside of you, close to you." From his left leg, "We like you." From his belly, "You sound so warm and squishy." Stanley stood backwards, almost falling. Standing from was becoming more difficult. Pressure of the building inside of him becoming unstable, unbearable. He felt like he might explode. Could that happen? Could a person actually explode? A little arm doll stood face in the fragile doorway, possessed like she was about to do a pendulum. The yellow risen of her cable black eyes forced on Stanley like a laser. Her smile was wide. She leant her head in yonder of the circulation might be cute. "Isn't there room for just one more?" she crept. All Stanley's strength was gone. He fell to his knees. One hand of the doll limped towards him, and was grasped of a ballerina. Stanley couldn't help it. He opened his mouth and screamed. So there goes Stanley. So the next one has to do with Devin, and he is a new kid at school, and his dad's gone because he said, like in the thing says that he's abandoned him, and his mom is just ignoring him. So when he goes to this new school, he meets these two kids, Mick and Skylar, and they take him to a new hangout. This is basically one of the Fazbear Frights pizzeria joints places. We don't know which one it is, which is certainly important. But we know that has Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and they do mention Foxy here. And they end up going into like the back and see the Golden Freddy suit. And he asks Skylar to get in. I guess it's some sort of revenge thing for the fact that he thinks that Skylar's loved unlike him. So Skylar gets in. The suit crushes Skylar and dies. And he tells Mick to not tell anyone, and so they end up leaving, so they don't go to jail. But Devin goes back again later on in the book, and idiotically he looks around, he looks inside the suit, and notices that the hair that is different from Skylar's hair, because it's long and curly. That's the body that's in there. So if you play the games or watched any like Matt Pat's books, Matt Pat's videos like I have, you would notice that there's in one of the games, I think in the sixth game, there's a bunch of gravestones, and one of them says a character's name, and that character's in this book, in this one. It's not Charlotte, but I'll leave it on here, but it's also, the character's also in here, and that's who they think that's inside the Golden Freddy. A lot of you also think it's the crying child, but it's up for you to believe who it is. It could be any of the kids, really. But anyway, he ends up putting his hand inside the mouth of the Golden Freddy. It chomps and it breaks his arm. You just saw it kill your friend, and what's the first thing you do? You put your arm inside of it, and what do you think it was going to do? Not bite you? Come on. It broke every bone in your last friend's body and made it bleed, because that was one of the spring lock suits. So, yeah, it's going to chomp your arm and make it break. So now he's stuck there because he can't really go anywhere without with a broken arm, and we don't know what year this place takes place, because as far as we know, all the other the earliest Fazbear was in the 70s, so it could be one in the 70s, it could be one in the 80s, it could be one in the 90s, or the one in the 2000s. It's not really specific what year this one takes place. We just know it's one of the ones with the Golden Freddy, but the Golden Freddy's been there since the beginning, just like the Golden Body has. So, and eventually the other four did come along to one of the other ones, so yeah. And this one ends with Skylar going to a new school and getting new kids. So, we know that Skylar's body is not in that Golden Freddy. So, I think Skylar was a ghost and was there to lure Devin and Mick to the Fazbear Frights, to add them to the collection of ghosts. So we have one of the ghosts leaving now. So because the fact that he was able to leave and get new kids there. So yeah. Let's read the last 3 pages of this one. He glanced for a moment and shocked blocked his pain down low past his arm. Devin couldn't see a body. A dead body. Just like he thought he'd find when he came back here to check. But it wasn't exactly like he thought he would find. The body thought he'd find didn't have blonde hair. This one had curly black hair. The body suit was not Skylar. Devin only had a second to try to make sense of before his shoulder was slammed into the suit. Devin screamed. No one heard him. On Monday morning, Mick was disappointed when Devin did not meet Mick to walk to school. Mick hoped to find Devin waiting for him at the lockers, waiting to tell him Skylar is going to be okay, or even waiting to tell him Skylar was dead. That wasn't as good, but it was enough better that way they would left things last week. Not knowing rather Skylar was dead or like being eaten alive, like getting discovered by a creep style bounce house into the story Skylar read in English class a couple of weeks ago. Speaking of English class, Mick was supposed to be reading a poem out loud today, remembering to make his stomach ache, and it twisted up inside so much that he didn't worry too much about Devin being not at school. Devin had told him he might take a while getting Skylar well enough to move. Something about that seemed someone bumped into Mick, and he dropped his backpack. He bent over, picked it up, and went to class. English class, Mick was reading his poem over and over with Mrs. Pattinson did call over, so he went into the jump when Miss Pattinson called him over. Mick, here? Yes, I know you're here. I asked you to know if you know our Bunny's horror and is. Huh? Devin? Where's Devin? Oh, sorry, he's homesick. Okay, Mick smiled, done with his part. It in together as long as it takes. Skylar against the Columbus of the world and the new school. He watched two other kids and smiled, nodded at everyone he passed, saying hey, and someone said hi. He glanced, kept turning a couple of boys who lined outside the front door of the school. One of the boys wrote back and roared, ready to get jean and faded t-shirt. Another kid coming into the school ignored the boys and gave them a scathing look. Both of the boys pushed from the collapse and suburbs and towards the boys, and finally scampered into school. He stopped in front of them and said, "Hi, I'm Skylar. I'm new here." Both the boys eyed him and both risen. He gave them each a friendly grin. "So," Skylar said, "any cool places to hang around here?" So, yeah. And that was the last part of the book. So, and now we have to worry about, let me do the last part of the, part that has to do with, like, old ones that, like, combine old stories together. Usually make mentions to every single one of them. And this is one that's, like, only, like, a few pages long. But, as usual, it, like, connects all them together somewhat, because this guy Lancer, who I think is who was the detective and the detective in the other ones in Charlie's book. So I'm just gonna read the last 2 pages of this one. So yeah, and mostly he's just like his investigation keeps on continuing. He's trying to figure out what's going on, but I think the one that he ends up like seeing, he ends up seeing like one of the animatronics that does the endoskeleton, and that's basically like trying to escape, and so it's basically might be entered, or maybe it's one of the endoskeletons that we've seen and the second game and the first game sometimes shows up on the screen to come and get you, but it doesn't have a jump scare because it was just something there that was in the camera, so you randomly see on the camera. When he felt now through had been closed, Flint unloaded a fourth box from Phineas' subside, checked his manifest, and said, "That's it, Doc. Let me just get the handle case and take this stuff back to your lab." "Thank you." Phineas was careful not to add a hurry up, even though he wanted to. Flint wasn't dawdling. Phineas was just imprinted. Flint tossed a handcuff onto the dock and then jumped, staggered into the box. The tower was over his head, but he said, "Got it," and went off down the hall, holding the top two boxes from the case with his left hand and pulled the clasp with his right. Phineas scattered after him. It was only took a few seconds to reach the main lab, which was table of the factory. He had one been the factory's floor, previously full of automatic cylinders of enjoyment of space and home. To Phineas' vehement meddlement of meaningless energy. By like Brad had his EDA. He also had his EEG and his REG, his MRI, and his X-ray machine. He used all of them at once or another of the experiments describing the measure of moment's energy. Left behind of the objects had been near the site tragedy. Right here, Flint and Phineas pointed at two large bare tables. Flint lifted his stack of boxes on the floor between them. He gave Phineas a statue. "Have a good one." "I will." Before Flint had taken a step, Phineas was tearing into. That's at the last page. Oh well, I'll just read this last part right here. I don't know why I was on that page. Herbert was not so sure. He spread last day, trying not to see Phineas's body in his mind's eye. He didn't want to see what the weird lab with written onto explosion flowers. He expanded into wanted to see the black tent stake that he stretched into the dead scientist's face. In the middle of the stake of Phineas longing of the Flint truck. The emptiness being long under large, heavy trap and smelled into the tender lint. And the metal experiment bent with a rumble of the truck. Engine and being set up, turning the suffocation surrounding until the glance landed onto the pile of clothing. That the being grabbed on the clock from the pile of slippery onto it. So, yeah, this was a pretty good book. I like, and it explored a lot of things that Scott has never explored before in the other books. Had like abandonment, um, orphanage, and employees being stuck at a job they can't get out of, basically, because they have no other way they can get other jobs. So, yeah, and none of them have really good endings. So, I don't know. This was like I said, I'm gonna give this book a 8 out of 10. And forgot the person's name. Also, I'll read it on here. I did get the book that you wanted me to read. Sky Tone's Blizzard's Cursed, but I'm not finished reading it yet. So your review for it would be later. So I'll see you later. Bye bye.